Part 1. People like to say marriage is hard work. But if you do it right, they say it's the good kind of hard. Like gardening or building furniture. Something satisfying, honest. And maybe that's how it is for some people. For me, it was like pouring everything I had into a well that I didn't realize had a hole at the bottom. My name's Nathan. 38. IT project manager. Quiet guy, if you asked around. I'm the one people come to when things go sideways at work, which is ironic, considering I didn't see the sideways coming in my own damn house. I met Sophie at a friend's barbecue. She was laughing too loud at someone's dad joke, wearing this sun yellow dress that made her look like she glowed. She wasn't perfect, but she was fearless. The type of woman who made you feel like you'd been living life in black and white until she showed up with Technicolor. We dated for a year, got married on a rainy April afternoon in a courthouse with steamed-up windows and my hand on the small of her back. No kids. That was a joint decision, or at least I thought it was. We had freedom, late-night movies, spontaneous road trips, intimacy that felt like a secret only we knew. I thought I was happy. Hell, I was happy. Until I wasn't. It started small, like all bad things do. First, it was the late nights. Sophie always had freelance projects on the side. Interior design gigs, a private client here or there. I never questioned it. I liked that she had her own thing. Independence was one of the things I loved most about her. But then it started happening more often. Thursday night became Tuesday and Thursday. Then Saturday mornings. Sunday afternoons. She started saying things like, it's just easier to meet at their place, or, I didn't want to bother you with all the details. I nodded, smiled, trusted her. Until I noticed the receipts. A dinner for two at a wine bar downtown. 2 entrees, 2 drinks. She told me she was at a design consultation. Maybe she was. Maybe your client just had a hell of an appetite. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband. My dad used to say, if you go looking for something, make sure you're ready to find it. I wasn't. Not yet. Then came the phone. She used to leave it on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Casual. Like she had nothing to hide. But one night, I noticed it buzzed during dinner, and she flipped it over so fast it nearly fell off the table. Just muscle memory, she said. Didn't even look at the screen. Okay. Next day, I tried to send her a photo I found of us at the beach. Her phone was in her purse. I reached for it without thinking, like I'd done 100 times before. Locked? Face ID only. When did that happen? Just being more careful, she said when I asked. You never know these days. Sure. Then there were the smells. Not the perfume. Sophie always smelled like vanilla and sandalwood. No, I mean the other smells. The kind that don't belong to her. Once it was tobacco. She doesn't smoke. Never has. Another time it was a deep, spicy cologne. Not mine. I started sleeping lighter. Not from fear. From a kind of mental static I couldn't shut off. Like my subconscious was running diagnostics while I tried to pretend everything was okay. One night I asked her, you happy with us? She didn't flinch. Didn't even look up from her glass of wine. Of course. Why? Just wondering. She smiled, finally. You're such a worrier. I laughed, played it off. But inside? Inside something tightened. A week later, I noticed she had a new pair of earrings. Nothing dramatic, just small, silver studs. I asked where they came from. She said she picked them up on the way home. I checked our shared credit card. No charges. Maybe cash? She hates carrying cash. Maybe I'm paranoid, I thought. Then I remembered our 3rd anniversary when I got her a necklace. She wore it twice, then it disappeared. Said it didn't go with anything. But these earrings? She's worn them 4 days straight. Still, I said nothing. I tried to let it go. I tried to focus on work, on the gym, on anything but the gnawing in my chest that grew a little hungrier every time she smiled just a second too late or paused just a second too long. Then, last night, I walked into the living room and she was on the phone. Her voice dropped when she saw me. Real casual. Okay, I'll see you then, she said, and hung up fast. Who was that? I asked. She blinked. Megan. Always Megan. Always the same damn lifeline thrown into the conversation like a reflex. I nodded. Cool. Tell her I said hi. She gave me a look like she knew I didn't believe her. But she said nothing. Neither did I. And that's the worst part. Not the lies. Not the suspicion. The silence. The weight of things unsaid piling up between us like bricks. I go to sleep next to her and feel like I'm lying next to a stranger wearing my wife's skin. I haven't said anything yet. No confrontations. No accusations. But I'm watching now. Really watching. And something isn't right. Not at all. Part 2. Sophie thought I'd put up with cheating because I'd put up with so much already, because I was the steady one, the calm, reliable husband who worked late but never wandered, who took her moods without complaint and her silence without suspicion. She underestimated me. I didn't lash out. I didn't scream or accuse. I observed. I waited. And when the mask slipped, just a little, I took notes. It started with her phone. She used to leave it everywhere. Kitchen counter, couch cushions, bathroom sink. But lately, it was like a fifth limb. Always in hand, always face down. The password changed. Not that it mattered. I watched her type it in twice. She used our anniversary year backwards, trying to be clever. So I took a look. Nothing explosive. No smoking gun. But the conversations were sanitized. Clean. Too clean. Deleted threads. Missing timestamps. That alone wouldn't hold up in a court of law, but in the court of gut instinct? It was damning. Then I noticed the driving logs. We share an app for the car insurance discount. Tracks every trip. She didn't know I still had access. I saw her usual routes to client meetings. And then I saw an odd one, 3 Wednesdays in a row, parked for 2 hours near an address downtown. Not near any clients I knew of. I looked it up. An apartment building. Maybe a new client, I thought. Maybe. But that's when I started comparing stories. She said she had a late client meeting. Same time. Different location. Same pattern. It wasn't a one-off. So I tested her. That Friday, I told her I had to fly out of town for a work retreat. I even packed a bag, left early, booked a room 20 minutes away, and waited. I tracked her phone's location. She left the house around 7 p.m., said she was going to dinner with Megan. Funny thing, Megan posted a photo of her cozy night in at 7:14 p.m. Oops. At 7:48 p.m., Sophie's location pinged near that same downtown apartment building. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I just sat in the hotel room staring at the ceiling, my fists clenched on the bedsheets like they were the only thing keeping me from punching a hole through the wall. When she got home that night, hours later, she sent me a selfie from the couch, wine glass in hand, cozy blanket draped over her legs. "Miss you already," she texted. I stared at the message like it came from a stranger. The next morning, I came home early. She was in the kitchen, already dressed. Hair curled. Perfume that wasn't hers. I kissed her cheek, and she flinched. Just a micro flinch. Enough to register. "So, how was dinner with Megan?" I asked. She didn't even look up. "Good. We caught up for hours." I said nothing. Just smiled. "Glad to hear it." And there it was again, hesitation. A pause. A twitch in her cheek like her brain was buffering between the lie and the delivery. I let it slide. But I started documenting everything. I bought a cheap burner phone. Used it to create a dummy Instagram account. Followed all her friends, her coworkers, the ones she thought I didn't know she was still in touch with. I even followed Megan. Megan posted a photo from her bathtub that night, timestamped. No dinner table. No wine. No Sophie. I began keeping a folder, digital, encrypted. Screenshots. Location logs. Text timestamps. Every inconsistency, every lie. Not because I was paranoid. Because I was preparing. We had no kids. No shared debts. Just a townhouse with too many memories and a marriage that had become a theater of pretend. One night, I tried to talk to her. We were on the balcony. It was raining. She loved the rain. Said it made her feel cleansed. You ever feel like something's broken and neither of us wants to say it out loud? I asked. She looked at me, eyes blank. Nathan, you're being dramatic. We're just in a rut. Every couple goes through it. You sure that's all it is? She forced a laugh. God, you always overthink everything. I nodded. Took a sip of my drink. You're right. Probably just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was awake now. I started checking her mileage, her receipts, even her Spotify history. On nights she claimed to be working, she'd been streaming breakup playlists. Her love songs. Her silence. Then, one Sunday, I found it. She was in the shower. Her purse was on the bed. I wasn't snooping, not exactly. But something stuck out. A small, glossy card tucked into her wallet. A name I didn't recognize. No business logo. Just a number. And a name, JR. I snapped a photo. Later that night, she mentioned a new client. First name? Ryan. No last name. No initials. Too casual. Too prepared. I ran a reverse search on the number. Private. Unlisted. but linked to a Venmo account under J.R. Lewis. 2 payments from Sophie in the last month. The memo read room decor and consultation. Except Sophie never paid her clients. They paid her. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, jaw clenched. This wasn't just infidelity. This was calculated. And the worst part? I hadn't even scratched the surface yet. Part 3. You always think you'll explode when you find out. That there'll be screaming, breaking things, fury pouring out of you like lava. But the truth? When I found out, really found out, I didn't even raise my voice. I froze. It started with the private investigator. I'd hired him a week after I found that name in her wallet, J.R. Lewis. It wasn't a stretch to assume this guy was more than a decorator. I wanted confirmation, not assumptions. Cold facts. Undeniable proof. The PI's name was Holden. Ex-cop. No bullshit. Said he'd have something in a week, maybe 2. He had something in 4 days. I remember it down to the detail. It was a Thursday. I was home alone, rain hammering the roof. The envelope slid through the mail slot like it belonged there. No return address. Just my name, Nathan Kane, written in all caps. Inside photos. I didn't open it immediately. Just stood there in the kitchen, envelope in hand, like I knew what was inside and didn't want the world to confirm what my gut already had. But eventually, I sat down. And I looked. First photo, Sophie. Outside a coffee shop. Smiling. Laughing. Her hand on a man's arm. J.R. Lewis. Late 30s. Trim beard. Expensive watch. Next photo, them again. His hand on her lower back as they walked into a hotel. Not a room. A hotel. Downtown. 2 hours later, same camera angle, her hair messy now, her face tired but soft. Kissing him on the cheek before they walked back to the car. There were 6 photos total. Different days. Same man. Same hotel. It wasn't a fling. It was routine. The kind of routine you only build with someone when you've already burned the bridges behind you. I sat there for a long time, photos in my lap, fingers trembling. Then I put them down and stared at the wall. No tears. No yelling. Just the sound of my breath shallow, broken. She thought I'd put up with cheating because I put up with it all my life. And maybe I had. My mother put up with my father's wandering eyes, his long business trips, the way he'd pretend to forget her birthday every other year until she stopped reminding him. She never left. Said it was for the kids. Said people made mistakes. I grew up thinking that's just what love looked like. But not anymore. Not after this. I went to counseling. Started 2 days after I got the photos. Didn't tell Sophie. Just said I was working late. I found a guy named Dr. Kessler, old school, direct, but not unkind. First session, he asked me what I wanted to get out of therapy. Peace, I said. Closure, I guess. He didn't flinch. Are you planning to confront her? No, I said. Not yet. I'm still building. Building what? I just smiled. A future. One that doesn't include her. Kessler nodded, then leaned forward. You don't seem angry. I'm not, I said. I'm awake. The next week, I started putting things in motion. I reviewed our finances. We had no children, no debt. I started separating our accounts. Quietly. Canceled joint subscriptions. Transferred my salary to a new checking account. I met with a lawyer. Told her everything. She nodded and said, with what you have? This will be clean. Fast. Good. Sophie didn't notice the change in me. Or if she did, she didn't say anything. Maybe she thought I was finally getting over my paranoia. Maybe she thought her lies had worked. That I'd buried the suspicion and decided to be her doormat again. She had no idea I'd already burned the bridge. I was just walking across it slowly, making sure each step landed exactly where it needed to. The photos stayed hidden. I didn't want to show them to her. Not yet. Not until I was ready. One night, I sat across from her at dinner. She was smiling, telling me about a new client. Lying. I knew it. I had the real client's name from Holden's report. The client was a 72-year-old widow who hadn't booked anything with Sophie in months. I looked at her while she spoke, and I didn't see my wife anymore. I saw someone I used to know. Someone who, at one point, loved me or faked it well enough that I believed it. But now? Now I just saw a stranger wearing Sophie's face. When she asked why I was so quiet, I smiled. Just tired, I said. After dinner, I cleaned the dishes. She went upstairs. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring out the window. The night was still. No wind. Just the kind of silence that sits in your bones. I didn't say a word that night. Not to her. Not to anyone. But my mind was a furnace. And every lie she'd told me was another log on the fire. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to break things or beg for answers. I was going to do what she never expected. I was going to leave. Not quietly, but with every piece of truth tucked in my back pocket, ready to burn her fantasy world to the ground. And I wouldn't raise my voice once. Part 4. The thing about revenge is that it's not about rage. Rage is sloppy, loud, messy. Revenge, real revenge, is about timing, precision. It's about watching the person who thought they were holding the knife suddenly realize they're the one bleeding. Sophie didn't just cheat. That would have been simple, clean, even. No, she did something worse. She used me. I found out 2 weeks after the photos. I was meeting with my lawyer, Jane. We'd already built the framework for divorce, quiet exit, financial split, no kids, no contest. Before we finalize, Jane said, tapping her tablet, "There's something out I want you to look at." She turned the screen toward me. A list of business filings. My name. My name on a company I'd never heard of. SNN Design Concepts, LLC. Filed 6 months ago. Registered using our home address. Business email linked to a Gmail I didn't recognize. But the name? SNN. Sophie and Nathan. Except I wasn't involved. Jane zoomed in on the financials. There were loans, big ones. Business credit cards. Sophie had used my name, my information, to secure funding. Over $80,000. She'd forged my digital signature. I just sat there, heart a cement block in my chest. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was criminal. She's committing fraud, I said quietly. Jane nodded. Identity theft. Wire fraud. And unless you act fast, you're liable for every penny. I didn't react. Just looked out the window at the skyline and felt something cold settle in my stomach. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was strategy. I decided right then, I wouldn't just walk away. I'd burn the whole house down. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part. The forgiving husband. The man trying to rekindle the spark. I brought her coffee in bed. Rubbed her shoulders. Smiled like I'm in it. She never noticed the way I double-checked the mail. Or the forensic accountant I hired to trace every cent of our joint accounts. She didn't know I'd begun working with a private cybersecurity team to trace the IP addresses on her fraudulent applications. And she definitely didn't know I was building an airtight case. I even agreed to host a client appreciation mixer at our house, a backyard networking event Sophie had suggested months ago and completely forgotten. She invited friends, old clients, new ones, even a few design influencers. Perfect. The evening started like any other suburban soiree. String lights, catered sliders, small talk floating over clinking glasses. At the peak of the night, right after dessert trays made their rounds, I clinked my glass. Thanks for coming, everyone, I said. I want to take a quick second to acknowledge my wife, Sophie, for her hard work, her creativity, and her hustle. She grinned beside me, wine in hand. And I'd also like to take this moment, I continued, to let you all know this will be her last event as a business owner, at least, legally. The year shifted. Sophie used my identity to take out over $80,000 in business loans. Forged my signature. Created a business using my name without my consent. Tonight, I'm publicly notifying everyone, clients, peers, friends, that legal action is already in progress. Civil charges. Fraud. Identity theft. And the authorities have been informed. Silence. Dead silence. Then murmurs. Sophie stared at me, wine glass trembling. You're not serious, she whispered. Oh, I'm very serious, I said. One of her clients stepped back, shaking her head. Is this a joke? Someone asked. I pulled a folder from under the drink table, copies of the documents. I handed them out. Her face drained of color. She dropped her glass. It shattered on the patio. Why are you doing this? She hissed, voice shaking. I leaned in. Because you gambled with my name. You lied. And now, Sophie, you get to watch it all fall apart in front of the people who thought they knew you. I left her there, alone in a crowd that suddenly wanted nothing to do with her. The next morning, Jane served her the full lawsuit. Her company was locked down. Accounts frozen. The press got wind of it a week later when a former client posted the cease and desist letter on social media. The comments lit up like wildfire. Sophie tried to do damage control, deleted accounts, called in favors. It was too late. Her reputation was scorched. Her clients vanished. Her so-called friends? Silent. She called me again. And again. And again. I never picked up. But I saved every voicemail. I didn't need to hear her apologies. Because there were none. Just desperation. She thought I'd stay quiet. She thought I'd disappear like every other man who'd been to her chaos. But I wasn't bending anymore. I was rebuilding. From the ashes she left behind. Part 5. New Beginnings. There's a certain silence that follows a detonation. The kind that hums inside your chest long after the dust has settled. I lived in that silence for weeks after the papers were served. After Sophie's world cracked open in front of her curated friends and hand-picked clients. I didn't celebrate. I didn't party. I breathed. For the first time in years, I actually heard myself breathe. I kept going to therapy. Dr. Kessler said I had a calm rage, which sounded like an oxymoron until I realized how true it was. I wasn't screaming in the shower or punching walls. I was just done. Done with the lies. The pretending. The way I'd folded myself into smaller and smaller versions of a man so Sophie wouldn't feel threatened by my presence. Turns out I'd become invisible long before she betrayed me. I moved into a small apartment near the water. Sparse. Quiet. One chair. One coffee mug. One bed. People assumed I was lonely. I wasn't. I needed the space. To process. To rebuild. To remember who the hell I was before I tried to fit into her perfect, poisonous world. Then came the twist. It was a Wednesday. Cloudy. I was having coffee with my old college friend, Drew. We hadn't talked much over the years. Life pulled us in different directions. But he'd reached out when he heard through the grapevine that I was getting divorced. We talked about surface stuff. Work. The market. Dumb movies. But then his tone shifted. There's something I should probably tell you, he said, not meeting my eyes. My stomach dropped. He pulled out his phone. Tapped something. Turned the screen toward me. Photos. Not of Sophie. Of JR, the man she'd been seeing. With Drew. Smiling. Arm around him. They're cousins, Drew said quietly. I didn't know he was involved with Sophie. I only found out after your blow-up went viral. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. And they've been planning to go into business together for years. Sophie used your name to fund it because she couldn't get approved on her own. She told Jerry you knew, said it was your idea, that you were the quiet backer. I sat back, every nerve in my body locked up. Drew swallowed hard. I just thought you should know. I didn't say anything earlier because I didn't know if it mattered. It mattered, not just because the betrayal ran deeper than I thought, but because Sophie didn't just cheat on me. She replaced me. She rewrote me, turned me into a silent investor, a passive fool, a placeholder. I walked home in a fog, poured myself a drink I didn't finish, sat on the floor because the couch felt too civilized for the weight of it. She came back a week later, knocked on my door, makeup smudged, eyes hollow. I messed up, she whispered. I ruined everything. No argument there. I thought you'd forgive me. You always forgave me. I looked at her, really looked. Same eyes, same mouth. But I felt nothing. You thought I'd forgive you because I always did, I said. Not because you were sorry. Tears. Real ones. Maybe. Who knows? I need you, she said. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then, no. You need someone like me. But I'm not him anymore. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. And I shut the door. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat down and finished the drink. A few days later, I met with Dr. Kessler again. I found out I wasn't completely innocent, I said. He raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I let it happen. I let her talk over me, lie to me, walk around me. I saw the red flags and folded anyway. I treated my loyalty like some kind of virtue. And now I understand, I said. Being a good man doesn't mean being a blind one. That night, I walked down to the pier. No music, no distractions, just me, the cold, and the sound of water. I stood there for hours. No Sophie, no lies, just the truth. The truth that sometimes, new beginnings don't come with a celebration or a love story or a perfect ending. Sometimes they come with silence, with pain, with a slow, ugly rebirth. But that's still a beginning. And I'll take that over pretending any day, because I may not have one. But I sure as hell survived. And survival, in the face of betrayal, is its own kind of victory. The end.